Hi, I'm Kim, and here is the kitchen that I'm sitting in that we just finished remodeling with the Lamont brothers. So the main motivation for doing this remodel was essentially we had appliances to change around, and we knew that that was going to potentially change some of the layout. Not the where everything was going, but the sizing of the countertops and everything. So we knew we had this tile countertop that had grout in it, and that was traditionally what you did in the early 90s, but it was a real pain point for us. Cleaning it was a real pain. Putting things on it, it was ugly. It was really rough. And I just didn't have enough room to cook. And so one of the things that I really wanted to do was have an island that also teed into a table that we could eat at. So what we ended up doing, and again, my husband and I are fairly tall, so this didn't bother us at all, is the design team came up with an idea to make a nesting table that we can move and separate for big parties if we need to have 6 people seated around it. Or we could nest it underneath the countertop like it is right here. And that's what I really like about the new design, and how it turned out was just beautiful. So they made this custom table for us. Everything from the stain was picked out and customized by Steve. Another big pain point for us was that this kitchen was dark. It's a north-facing kitchen. It was really difficult for me to envision making it brighter and lighter. And as you can see behind me, it's basically the complete opposite of where it was before. It's very light. We have ambient lighting that's coming in from the ceiling. We have under cabinet lighting that I can make warmer or cooler as I see fit. We have these pendant lights that make it really stylish and pretty, and also just accent the room. The other thing we did was tear down part of this wall, this partial wall. And that did more than anything to really unify our family room with our kitchen room and make it feel more like one living space. It was surprising how much light that brought in from the windows on the side from the family room. I mean, it just felt so fresh and so different. And that really changed the feel of the whole project. So that was another pain point that I felt we had addressed beautifully. The third was storage. I just needed more storage. We had a desk area that was not really being used for anything but dumping clothing and books and junk. And so it was like one gigantic junk drawer, but you saw it all day long. And we ripped that whole area out, and we put a floor-to-ceiling cabinets that now have pullouts for all of our food. And we moved the pantry over there, and we moved the refrigerator to a spot in the corner where the pantry used to be. And I wasn't sure how I would like that, but I really love how it turned out. We are still adjusting to our new kitchen. We're just 2 weeks in, but already I am really enjoying using our new induction stove and our countertops, and everything is just monumentally easier to clean, for one. That's one thing that I've noticed is a big change in how I use the kitchen. I also have been able to store things more logically where I feel like they need to go to facilitate cooking. So I have my utensils in a slightly different drawer, and I have a lot more drawers that I can really organize the Tupperware that we seem to use every day that I didn't give enough space to, and we're always crowded. Now that is all really organized, and I am not naturally an organized person. So this has really made it very easy to get everything in its proper place. I've never remodeled anything in my life, so this was a really big project and very daunting for us. When I was thinking about remodeling with my husband, we sat down and thought, what's going to keep our marriage happy and what is going to give us the most ease and the stress-free way of doing it. And we wanted to go with a design and build company, because from the moment you step in the door to the very finished product, you have somebody looking over your back, and they are here to essentially give you all you need in terms of advice and a little nudging here and there, and also to make the process really smooth. I thought it was really great being able to interview them. Even by the first interview, I met with my project manager. Before we even thought we were going to go with them, the very first thing we did was had a FaceTime interview with her. And so she went over the whole process, and I really got a sense of what it was like to work with a design and build company. So the process started with meeting the design consultant for the first time, even before we decided to go with the company. And It was really reassuring to me. She and I had a video conversation just about what I was looking for and what I was looking for in a company to work with. And it was really very helpful. She gave me tons of information, way more than other companies did. And I think we talked for like 45 minutes. I had a very good grasp of what was going to happen in the project. The next step in the project was having the design consultant come out to our house and look at the environment and see what we were dealing with and what I really wanted out of the project. Largely, these were my decisions. My family kind of left most of the decision-making to one person, which I just recommend on the side if you're going through a big project. And it was really nice to have that one person to contact throughout the entire project. We really talked a lot about what I wanted changed, and she had a lot of really good, insightful questions about what we needed to do as far as budgeting and the scope of the project. The next step was to meet them at Lamont Brothers headquarters and meet with the design consultant, the designer, and I think I even met the owner. And we went through a potential initial concept. She gave us 3 choices, something that was medium in our budget, something that was on the lower end, and something that was at the very high end, and then a sort of dream kitchen. And we went through different scenarios, and I picked out what I liked in each one. And it wasn't an exact design, it was just, do you want to tear this wall down? Or should we rearrange the cabinets? Should we even replace the cabinet? We had a series of meetings over probably a month where we went through the design process in gory detail. And so they presented us with certain concepts. Once we settled on the concept that we wanted and how much of a scope we really wanted this project to entail and a general budget of what we really could afford, then I got to meet the designer. Again, we'd have a series of meetings where they would present mock-ups that were virtual mock-ups that I could see on my end through an application that they have you use on your phone, but we could also look at what was going on the big screen when I went to their office. And so as a family, we kind of met with them several times. And that was probably the most challenging part, was kind of shifting everything from color schemes to budget and trying to figure out and navigate that whole system and still be really happy with the end product. I had picked out the countertop and we wanted to go with a natural stone. And so that was kind of the centerpiece of the kitchen. We were able to use that for the color scheme. And that really helped, having something to anchor it on. Even before we settled on the design, that was something that the design consultant brought me out to the factory to look at all of the slabs in person. She had so many connections with the tile people and the countertop people and just knew so much about that process. And I had never done anything like that before. And that was really reassuring to me to know that we were going to get the best products, highest quality, and she was going to be doing the bargaining for me in terms of contracting and fitting that into the budget that we had decided. So the latter part of the design process for me was selecting the fixtures, the hardware, the cabinet colors. Everything was so specific, and it was actually overwhelming, except that each decision was guided by both my designer and the design consultant. And it was really nice to have them bounce ideas off. So they would give me 3 options. I'd say, I like this about this one. I don't really love this about the other one, or I have no idea how big this is going to be. And then Nikki would mock it up in the design application so I could actually see it in a computerized model. We selected basically everything before we signed the final budget contract. So as a client, essentially your work is done in terms of making the really big decisions. Then we just gave it to the design build company, and they took that and they ordered all the parts. We made sure we had the appliances we wanted to replace, and we waited for a couple months. They had already given us a very detailed schedule, really amazing for an engineer and a physician, because we are so used to having schedules and, we're control freaks. So we wanted to know, what day is this going to happen? What day is that? I didn't even so much thought I would care, but it was really, really nice to know, well, this day they're going to be coming in. These are the weeks that they're going to be doing cabinets. We were trying to plan a family trip around this, and it worked out really well. We had a lot of buy-in when things happened, but most of it was just waiting for a couple months. And they told us, we're going to start on this date and we're going to end on this date. And we're like, sure, okay. We know something is going to happen to delay that. And we finished on the day we finished. And I just couldn't believe it. The exciting part was starting construction. We broke ground, so to speak. The demo happened the first day, and my husband and I wanted to be here for it so we could kind of see what was going on. I think we turned our backs and came back 2 hours later, and it was almost done, and we were shocked. But like over the first half of the day, our kitchen was empty all of a sudden, minus the center island. And by the next day, the end of the next day, it was completely gone. And they had already started rebuilding stuff and looking at the layout of the hardwood floors that had to be a little bit rearranged. When the design team passed the project off to the production team, we met Steve and Travis. Steve is our local superintendent. He was the one who was there boots on the ground every day. So was Travis. He was our carpenter, our main carpenter. And then they had people in and out various days for various different projects, or if they needed to speed something along, they'd get a whole team in. They had wonderful connections with the subcontractors. So they would just call up the electrician, and they had the plumbers come out, and all that was on the schedule. So I could see what day is the plumber coming out, what day is the electrician coming out. Here are the questions that I have. I want to move this light, or I don't know what, this part of the design looks this one way, but when you actually physically put it in, oh, this light is a little decentered or something like that. And so all of those concerns were brought to Steve, who I just wanted to hug. He was so wonderful and really was just there every day. They were incredibly kind and worked around us completely. We have children and animals that are always in the way, and they just made them just totally welcome. They worked around us. They used other parts of our house and the outdoors to stage things, but completely kept them out of our way, and they cleaned up after themselves. So my house looks better after than it started out. I think the experience of the actual construction could not have gone better. It was neat. It was so much fun to walk in one day and find just this big empty room and part of a wall broken down. And we were just shocked at how much more light was getting in the house. That's really something that I was looking for in this remodel. And then when the lighting went in, that was a whole nother shock. And then the cabinets that was a huge job. I didn't realize how many cabinets we had actually ordered. Then as I started seeing the things that the designer had picked out, the hardware, the colors for things, the tiles, as all that was sort of trickling in, I was like, I don't know how this is gonna look. And then it went in, and it just looked so much better than I had imagined in my head and that I had seen on the mock-ups. It looks better than the computer can show you. And about a day or two before we were set to end the project, we had something called a 95% walkthrough. And that's when everybody who is part of the design and build team comes out to the site. And so we had a whole bunch of people, and it felt a little bit like a party, like my new family, really, because I had spent pretty much every day seeing Steve and Travis. My kids were really attached to them. The dog was very entertained. And we had a big talk with them about, every little detail. So things I didn't even know I should be thinking about. It felt like it was done. That next day they came back and did a whole bunch of those little things. And then they said, we're done with the project. This was the last day that we had on our schedule, but don't worry, we're coming back on Monday. So this was a Friday, and they came back on Monday, and I got to live in the house and start beginning to move things back in. And as I was opening cabinet doors and drawers and starting to use our new sink and starting to use our new cooktop, we were able to identify tiny little things that were maybe new pain points, like really small, minor pain points. And that was wonderful because I could just make a little list. That when they came back that Monday, I could give them a small list of things that I had found over the weekend. And some of them, Steve was able to just walk over to the sink and adjust the cabinet, and then it was solved. At this point, the design and build team as a whole structure stops being your day-to-day communication, and you talk more with the project manager and the design consultant. And that's what I would do, just email them with, here's a couple things that came up. So after everything essentially finishes and the team is off to another project, it's been 2 weeks now, and I've been finding little things as I'm moving back into the kitchen that I have been putting on like a little punch list. I'm gonna keep that list for a while. Some of the things I've already emailed in bulk to the team. The Lamont brothers basically follow you for a year, and I don't feel any hesitation at all contacting them because I know them all so well now. It's like emailing a friend, and they'll get back to me. And one of the really reassuring things for me is, what if I find something as I'm using the kitchen that isn't working or breaks in that first year and because we didn't know how to use it properly or whatever. That is going to be covered completely by the company. So at 1 year, they already have, and we'll schedule a walkthrough again. And that 1 year walkthrough, then I'm going to be able to point out every single little thing and have a whole nother punch list, and they'll take care of anything remaining at that point. Because we have good quality products, and because I trust that the construction went really well and the design was so good, that we're going to be able to live in this kitchen for like another 15, 20 years before I want to change anything. And that's really what I went through this whole process to do. So from a financial perspective, it was really nice working with this company, because at the very beginning, when we were doing our concepts, the concepts were grouped by budget. So there was a budget range of maybe $10,000, where you would have kind of a low end and a high end of that one concept. Do you rip down this wall or not? Or do you change the layout of your kitchen? Do you keep the cabinets or get rid of the cabinets? Stuff like that. When we finally decided on our final concept, went through the design process. Every single piece, even down to the hardware, we knew exactly how much it was going to cost, and everything was labeled out in our app that we could look at on the phone. So when I was making selections, I knew how much everything was going to cost, and the final price that they proposed to us included the cost of labor and installation. So it wasn't like you get one little bill here and then 10 days later you realize it's twice as much. So that was really reassuring. So all that even happened before we signed the final budget contract. And I really didn't understand when we started working with this company how they could be on budget and on time so much of the time. Like, how can you ever say that? Because no construction project actually doesn't have any changes to it. Like, obviously there are going to be little things that pop up. So I was really confused about it. Well, what happens is you sign that budget contract at the end of the design process, not at the beginning, not in the middle, like at the very end after you've picked out everything. And what happened for us was, in that period where we were waiting for the construction to start and they were ordering parts, my husband found some things in the house that needed repair. And he thought, well, hey, we were looking at the siding on our house really needed to be replaced, and that was in the same general area. And so we asked them to give us an estimate about how much it would cost to do that project in addition. And so instead of adding to the budget, the budget was a fixed price that we then had a payment plan through the construction, which started and ended on the first and last construction dates. The extra stuff would be spec'd out and quoted to us with an exact price, including all the labor and materials that they estimated they needed. That would be then put on the app, and I would have to sign my name that I approve of it or not. So the neat thing about this, working with this company, is that when you sign the budget contract that that's how much money you're going to be paying. And then everything after that is a change order. And what happens as you begin construction is, obviously there's little things that come up, like the hood part where we had to actually drill a hole through a structural beam obviously cost money. And that was the most costly, but it really wasn't that bad. And all the work and thinking about it came through us. Then a change order with an exact budget was sent to me for signing. And I signed and said, yeah, I can pay, X amount of money for this addition. And so we felt very in control of the entire financial part of the process. I think in the end, I look back at when we were starting to think about this project. We waited 9 years after moving into this house, kind of to save up money because we could live in it. And then because we just couldn't stand it anymore, and we knew we reached that threshold where we just had to do something about it. If you're thinking about a remodel and you're kind of at that point, I would reach out to this company and just talk to them on the phone about what you might be looking for, because you may not know, like I didn't really know if now was the time to start the remodel. And I was just kind of phoning people and talking to them. For me, it was really important that we had people on our side who we trusted, and that's something that I really felt comfortable with this group. We changed the flow of our kitchen, we moved some things around in creative ways, but largely the kitchen layout stayed the same. And so at first I was like, I don't want to spend all this money to like not do something super drastic. But we realized that like the parts that we liked about our old kitchen are still there. And now all of the pain points are gone. So I think it has really changed the way that we use our space, and it's made it just so much more functional. It's the ease of cleaning. I mean, just everything has just made it less of a stressful space. And I feel very happy and peaceful in my new kitchen. So if you want to see more about the actual space that I'm now living in and what changed, our designer is going to do a walkthrough, and you can check out her video next.